because this is the season 1 finale of Situations and Conversations. I am your host, Renee. So happy that you're joining us today. I have the honor and the privilege of welcoming a very important and special guest to the show today. He is the police chief of Portland. Chuck Lovell is with us, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Chief Lovell.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, when I called you to come on the show and I told you that we were amplifying young voices this season, you didn't hesitate to say yes. What has you so excited to talk to kids?
I love kids. So, I think that's just an important voice. In today's day and age, I think we're seeing it too. The youth voice is really impactful, and you don't see that voice represented in a lot of spaces. And I think now people are starting to realize that that's an important voice to really, to amplify and to really see what kids think and what they're looking for out of, leaders and community people.
Yeah, I mean, Whitney Houston said it best. Children are the future.
For sure.
So we definitely do need to invest in them and listen and hear what they have to say, right? Well, I want to hear what you have to say, but I also want people to get to know you as a man, as a person, and not just this police chief that comes on anytime there's any kind of crisis on the news. We see you and, we don't really know who you are. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up?
I'm originally from New York. I was born in Brooklyn. I lived there until I was about 7. Then we moved 2 hours north of the city to a small town called Wappingers Falls.
Wappingers Falls?
Yeah.
And what was it like living there?
It was different. It was a smaller town. I went from a really rough section of East New York to really an all-white town. Had to kind of make that transition at a very young age.
And what was that like for you?
It was interesting because it was at first scary, but I went to Catholic school in the city, so it was pretty diverse there, good mix. And then it was interesting to be in an environment, too, where you're one of, or maybe one of two for the first time ever. And to figure out kind of where you were going to fit in and how people were going to treat you.
Yeah, we actually did a whole episode this season about being a kid of color in a predominantly white school system.
Okay.
And it was pretty enlightening for a lot of folks. I mean, not to myself. I grew up pretty similar in that way, and my kids are doing the same thing. But it's good to know that you have that experience and background, especially here as a man of color in Portland, where clearly we are not the majority,
yes,
to say the least, right? So who raised you? Like when you moved, or who'd you live with? I want to know the landscape of Little Chuck.
Oh yeah, so I'll break it down for you. We moved, I lived with my mom and dad.
Okay.
My grandparents on my mom's side actually lived with us too.
Okay.
And my mom had a daycare center in our home when I was growing up. So there was always little kids running around. And my mom was really probably the one who developed my real sense of care. I'd say that was the theme in our home growing up, was care and community.
Yeah, I get that. I get that sense about you because, I mean, you're in this leadership role and you definitely need to care about community.
Yes.
I mean, at the very least, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think back, like, do you have any role models besides your mom who taught you, basically the nurturing piece and how to care about people? But do you have any role models?
Yeah, I have a few. For me, I think the best role models are real people that are in your life, like coaches or teachers and things of that nature. And I think for me, it's probably teacher.
Okay, a teacher. Do you feel like you could do any teaching in your role now? Do you do any teaching?
Yeah, I do. I think whenever you're interacting with people, you have the opportunity to teach. People get a sense of you and see kind of what you're about. And I think for me, a lot of the interactions I've had with youth have been really kind of showing them that maybe the police are different than what they thought. Like, you're just kind of a regular person.
Yeah, well, that was part of the reason why I was like, I want to make sure that people kind of get a sense. I mean, there's no way to get to know you in 28 minutes and 30 seconds, but we can get a sense a little bit more of the man behind the badge and the position, And so what do you want people to know about you?
Me, I'm really just a people person. I think that's the best way to describe it. When I did move from the city up to Wappinger Falls, the first job I had was as a paper boy. So about 12 years old, I was the neighborhood paper boy. Get up early, get on my bike, deliver the newspaper. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm having a whole vision.
Oh yeah.
Did you make it? Did you actually throw the papers onto the porch, or did you throw them all in the grass everywhere else?
No, I put them in the box. Every now and then, someone needed me to, I'd take them to the porch.
Really?
Yeah.
I can see that. I don't know why. I can see that. Okay, so that was your first job?
Yeah, and that was really probably the most formidable or formative kind of experience for me as far as relationships with people in your community. Because every month you'd have to go collect money for the newspaper. So you'd
I forgot about the collecting the money part.
Oh yeah, so you'd have to go knock on people's door and be like, hey, I need, the $12 or whatever it is for the newspaper. And at a young age, it really taught me, I had this opportunity to have these kind of 70-ish individual relationships with my neighbors and my adult neighbors at that. And it really taught me a lot about just community, interacting with people, getting to know people, and really serving people.
Now, did anybody ever try not to pay you?
Yes.
Oh, and how did you handle that?
You just have to keep coming back. You like knock on the door and you're like, I know someone's in there, but no one's coming to the door. It happens.
Oh no, now see, poor little, I just seen this little Chuck just walking away like, I can't believe I'm not gonna get paid. Oh man, all right. Well, we are amplifying young voices here. Wait. How did you get to Portland?
A girl.
We didn't talk, oh, a girl.
Yeah.
That's always that. I feel like most people are like, that aren't from here, you say, well, how did you get here? If it's not them having to move for a job, then they move for someone who got a job here or something like that. And it's always like either a significant other, a spouse or something like that. That's how I got here.
Yeah, my friends back in New York, when I said, I'm moving to Portland, they literally thought people in Portland still have like axes on their shoulders, flannels, like
Really?
Oregon? Yeah.
That wasn't my experience. I just figured there weren't very many black people at all here. Like everybody I told I was moving to Portland, they were like, there's no black people in Portland. And then so funny that the local hip hop artist Amine put up that billboard that's like, there are black people in Portland. Case in point, here we are. All right, so you're gonna stick around. We have to take a break, but when we come back, we're all about amplifying young voices. I know this is the major reason why you came. So we have some questions from young people, local middle schoolers, and I have to warn you, they're pretty hard hitters. You ready for that?
Yeah.
All right.
Middle schoolers are coming strong.
Yeah, they don't pull any punches. So as long as you're ready for that, we are ready too. So don't go away. We will be right back with more situations and conversations with Portland Police Chief Chuck Lovell, guys.
We know that we have the beauty and brilliance to positively shape our lives. Unfortunately, racism, continuous displacement, and discrimination have created barriers to our success. So, if you feel invisible and you're not being heard, if the social, emotional, and educational needs of your kids aren't being met, we want you to know we are here. We see you, we hear you. We are ready to walk with you on your journey to success.
All right, welcome back to Situations and Conversations. We are having a conversation with Portland Police Chief Chuck Lovell is with us. Thank you so much. So, are you ready for these hard-hitting middle schooler questions?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm not being funny either. They are serious about these questions. So, shout out to Beaumont Middle School. 7th grader Kanaya wants to know this. Seeing a black man in a police uniform is rare. As a black man, what influenced you to be a police officer?
I don't know if it's anything in particular other than I just thought it'd be a good way to serve people. My dad was a pastor, and my great aunts and all my cousins and people on that side of the family were always like, you're going to be a pastor like your dad. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be a pastor like my dad. But I always looked at it as a way to serve, like a service. I always thought it'd be a good, fun job. You get to go do different things, meet different people. Every day is different.
Did you meet police officers that you connected with, or was it just something that you just up and said, I think that's what I want to do?
Yeah, it was just something that looked interesting, and it seemed like a good way to serve. I did know one police officer. I said my mom had a daycare. One of the children at the daycare, both his parents were state troopers in New York.
Oh,
And I knew
wow.
them.
Okay, well, second part of Kanaya's question is, did you consider the risk?
No, not at the time. Think about it in terms of risk, I think, when you're young. I think once you start doing the job and you realize, oh, there's some risk here, then you start to think about it a little. But I think for me, it first manifested in my family. Like you take this job and, you're like, oh, my mom is worried about me.
Yeah.
Or my sisters or brothers are like, be careful. And, it kind of makes you think of it in those terms.
Yeah.
And I'd been in the Air Force after high school. So I traveled around and done some things. And I was 28 when I first started in law enforcement.
Now, it seems like there's a theme. A lot of times, people who served in the armed forces tend to go into police work. Do you see that, besides just yourself, but do you see a lot of that?
I do. Here it's a little more rare because there's really not a big military presence here in Oregon, but in other parts of the country I do. And I think it's really that kind of service theme. It's another way to continue like uniform service.
Okay, well, right on. All right. More questions from more Beaumont middle schoolers. We know your status doesn't make you immune to racism. Can you talk about a time that you have been racially profiled?
The only thing I could think of is I remember being in probably high school, being at a party with a bunch of friends. We were like partying in the woods. And
That sounds safe.
Yeah. And, eventually the police get called and they show up. And I'm out there, and there's probably, 40 people out there. And officers come up and they're like, hey, what are you guys doing? Shining flashlights. And one of them comes over to me and grabs my hands in my pocket, grabs it and pulls it out. Just take your hands out of your pockets. I'm like, it's weird because there's like 40 people here and you come over to me. And I was like, It always made me wonder, like, what was that all about? But the truth is, it doesn't make you immune. I mean, when I take the uniform off, I'm the black guy I've always been in America. So, yeah.
Did that experience shape you at all when you decided to go into the force at all, about, having the profiling going on?
And I don't think that experience per se, but it always made me remember that people remember incidents and how you treat them.
That's right.
And that was a good reminder.
Well, that's necessary. I hope most police officers feel the way you do about that, because the impact that you have on another person really does kind of leave an imprint in the brain. And if you're young, like some of these young people, the brain is still developing, and it develops around those experiences. And if it's traumatic, it develops around that traumatic experience.
Yeah. And you encounter people, in this line of work who are in very emotional states, and, a lot of times the day you contact them is one of their worst days. So, given that too, you have an opportunity to make a positive impact or potentially a negative impact.
Well, we see more and more of that every day, especially now that everybody has phones. We are exposed to so much more than we thought, whether it was happening all the time or not. We know now with all of the videos, and we can see what's going on. All right, I want to make sure I get to these questions because this is all about the kids today. Well, it's supposed to be every day, but this is for sure happening. Okay, Amaya, also from Beaumont Middle School, a 7th grader, wants to know, racist people don't know how to put their feelings for a different race aside just to do their job. We have protested, kneeled, and more to try to make a change, and it hasn't worked. How can we get everyone on board to make impactful change? Ooh, Amaya, that's good.
Yeah, that's deep.
Jeez, yeah.
I think that's one of the interesting things I think we've seen here in Portland. We've seen a lot of really peaceful protests, people coming out during the day, large crowds very early in the summer last year, marching into downtown, real peaceful, no police interaction, just trying to have their voices heard for racial justice. And then we had some late night things that have been more violent and destructive. And I think in some ways that has overshadowed some of the real sacrifice and work that the peaceful folks have put in throughout the whole summer too. So I think it's always important to remember those people who are doing that work. But I think the most important thing is to keep at it. Don't let people steal your narrative or silence your voice. I think where I sit today, I can sit in this seat because, people in my parents' generation went out and did peaceful protest. And, a lot of the gains African Americans have gotten in this country have been through protest.
That's true.
And it hasn't come easy or quick either. So
But still working on it.
yeah,
We're still working on it.
So I think really perseverance and making sure that you're not letting other people kind of silence you or steal your thunder.
When I was talking to my oldest, who's a high schooler, and told her you were coming on the show today, she was like, "Oh, I think I like him, but I'm not sure how I feel about police." Yeah. And she has mentioned that she wants to go to protests, but everything you see on the news, it's all so chaotic. Right. And so I'm like, no, you're not going anywhere. But I think the young people really do want to get out there and make their presence felt and their voices heard. How can they do that safely? Can they do that safely?
I think so. You'd be surprised how many people that work at the police bureau have kids who are out at protests at some time during the summer.
Really?
Oh yeah, and I talk to people all the time who are like, hey, my kids are out there. Like me and my wife know people whose kids are out there regularly. So it gives you, kind of something to think about. Like, okay, there's a lot of people who are in our circles and other people's circles are out there, letting their voice be heard for racial justice. I think you can do it safely, but you have to be smart about how you do it, when you do it, be smart about the activity going on around you and things of that nature.
Okay, no, I can understand that, but I'm so glad you mentioned that. I have never, ever thought that children of police officers or people in the bureau that their kids or their family members were out there. It just never crossed my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I think a lot of people would be surprised.
I'm one of them. Okay, let's see. Nope. We have to break. We're going to come back with more kids because we are amplifying young voices here on Situations and Conversations. Thank you. Don't go away. Do not go away. And you don't go away either. We'll be right back. Situations and Conversations with Trey Renee is sponsored by Black Parent Initiative, learning and growing together so families can thrive. Education Explorers. Parents, with companies starting to bring people back into the office and workspace, count on Education Explorers for safe, quality, reliable, and culturally sound childcare. They have low to no cost spaces available for infants and children up to 4 years old at their 2 locations in Tigard. Contact them online at educationexplorershcc.com or give them a call at 971-266-3646. Furniture and decor provided by Home Place Furniture and Design. Get all your furniture and design needs at Home Place Furniture and Design, with 2 locations in Oregon to serve you. Wardrobe for Trey Renee, that's me, provided by Janelle James Boutique, located at Bridgeport Village in Tigard. Styling services were provided by Dawn Cannon. Welcome back. Situations and Conversations, I'm Trey Renee. We are here with Portland Police Chief Chuck Lovell. And we also actually have a very concerned community member. We call this the People Show. So I hope you are ready. Yes? All right. Well, Bo has a question for you.
Hi, Chief. In your opinion, what do you think is the most important step in creating more trust between communities of color, Black people, and the police department?
I spend a lot of time talking about trust because I think, when I think of the way forward, for police departments everywhere, but Portland also, trust has to be a big part of it. And I think it really comes with familiarity. One of the things I really want to do is get officers committed to working in a district or a neighborhood for a long period of time. I think right now, being a patrol officer is one of the least incentivized positions that we have. Some other jobs have take-home cars or more overtime or things of that nature. But being a patrol officer is kind of where you start, and you're there for a period of time till you want to go do something else. Some people stay there their whole career. Mm-hmm. But I think being in a neighborhood, working with people, getting to know people, letting people get to know you is really the key. It's kind of the community policing model. That means a lot of different things to different people. But I think it's really about having those long-term relationships. And then people start to see the police through the lens of their relationship with the officer in their neighborhood, officer at their school, officer that coaches their kids and things of that nature. And I think that's where you build that trust. And I think that trust is what's important. And I think, for a neighborhood, you want to know who the officer is that might come to your door if you have a problem, or who might come to your kid's school if there's a problem there. And I think that's really where we need to move to as a police department and as a community.
I agree. Great. Thank you, Bo. That was a really great question. You know, as I think about that, I mean, can you imagine what it would be like? Like, it seems like back in the day when Officer so-and-so would come and they would know you, right? So let's say if you're having some sort of episode, they would know you enough that, you know, they can come and say, okay, wait a minute, I know what this is, or I know this family. But it feels like that's just not where we are. But I'm happy to hear that that's somewhere you want to get to, hopefully very quickly.
Yeah, you know, I think there was a time where we knew our neighbors too. You couldn't go down the street and do certain things because your neighbors knew your mom and your family.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like that too. I've been in so many interactions with people and with youth too, where an officer says, hey, what's your name? Oh, I know your mom, I know your dad, or I know your grandma.
Right.
And it's a very powerful kind of linkage and connection.
Absolutely. There's accountability there, you know, for some people, and then there's the familiarity for others, which I think is great. Okay, we have another concerned parent who has a question for you. David?
Hi, Chief. So from your perspective, why do you think that Black people are pretty much scared to call the police?
You know, I think a lot of probably different reasons. I think history might be maybe the biggest one. I think there's really a lot of feelings in the African American community that, you know, can we trust the police? Are the police gonna, you know, give us good service kind of thing? And I think that's a historical thing when you look back over time. And I think, you know, for us moving forward, building that trust is important. But, you know, I think back in my life where, you know, your parents give you the talk. Like, if you get stopped by the police, you know, don't do this, don't do this, say that. And to me, it's really kind of preparing your kids to be safe in the world. And it's not necessarily like my parents didn't like police or anything like that. They just wanted to make sure if we had an encounter with police that we were going to be safe. And I think, you know, a lot of Black families have that talk with their kids. And there's that, I want to prepare you that, you know, the world might not always be the fairest place. And I want to give you the preparations to, you know, to survive in that environment. And I think, you know, historically speaking, if you look at some African-American interactions with the police, there are some that have been really bad. And, you know, it wasn't, I mean, till pre-Rodney King, probably, you know, you've always heard this, oh, you know, the police treat us this way or this way and that. And then there was a video of Rodney King and people were like, oh, that's what you were talking about. And there was, you know, some physical video evidence that made people really kind of take pause. Right. So I think it's really history. And for us as police, it's overcoming that history. And it's not something that happens overnight. It's a slow process that takes probably, you know, one call at a time kind of approach to it. But I think you really have to show the humanity in people that do this work and who are behind the uniform, and care. I think compassion and care, love. You don't really hear police talk about love a lot. I think you have to have a love of people and a love of service.
You know, do you ever think that maybe there could be some more community events between police and community, particularly the African-American community? I mean, I'm thinking about maybe a police breakfast, something like that, you know what I mean? And have some of the officers come around who will be in those neighborhoods and endear themselves to the people that they pledge to serve to protect, you know, because I know that I don't think about that part anymore as much. You know, when I think about police, I don't think about my protection.
I talk a lot about service because, you know, being in the Air Force, service, you know, when you sign up to be police officers, protect and serve. And I think sometimes, you know, you have enforcement as part of your job. There's a lot of authority and autonomy that comes with that. And I think sometimes it's really important to amplify the service part. You are a public servant. And, you know, that part is important to highlight. And even sometimes more than the enforcement piece, because I think you end up in a lot of situations, even when you have to, you know, enforce a law or do something, you're still serving someone in some way or another.
Well, it'd be really great if we could feel like everybody could be served, because that's the issue, right? Some people feel like that and some people don't. And it would be nice to have everybody feel that way, in particular, the African-American community and communities of color in general, because for obvious reasons, we seem to be the ones always on the videos getting injured, if not having fatal consequences. So, and I know that's heavy, and I don't expect, and I hope people don't expect one man to be able to do that for everybody. Everybody has to get on board. Everybody under you, and, and in the Bureau and the community too. We have to hopefully be open. So I'm looking forward, like maybe we could do something together. I'm down to help because I'm not just about this lip service. I really want to, and you know this about me. Full disclosure, we're friendly. Your wife is a very good friend of mine. And when we get together again over drinks, lunch, whatever, dinner, I would really like to talk about how we as a collective and how I can help myself, because it's important.
It is, especially when it comes to youth too. We used to have PAL, Police Athletic League. We used to,
I remember.
Yeah, we used to be in schools teaching GREAT and DARE and things of those nature. And all those have gone away. We're really, looking for ways to connect with youth. I wrote a letter actually in support recently of Portland Activities and Athletic League, which is starting to form. I think they're partnering with our Sunshine Division to do kind of events and activities for kids.
Okay.
And I think those things, it's sad when budget cuts come, those kind of things are always the first to go. They've just kind of trickled off over time. But it's sad because those are the ones that really help build that connection and that trust.
Absolutely. Well, keep me posted. Keep us all posted, because again, this is the People's Show, and you bring it to me and I'll bring it to everybody.
Okay.
Sound like a plan?
Fair enough.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best, continued success in your role.
Yeah, thank you.
And I pray for you.
I appreciate it.
I really pray for you, because it's not easy what you're trying to do, and who you represent also. So it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you're appreciated. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure, my pleasure.
Police Chief Chuck Lovell, everybody. Yes, oh my goodness. That's it. That's it for this season of Situations and Conversations. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Really, I want to thank our sponsors, our title sponsor. I feel like I'm giving an Oscar speech. I got to make sure I get all the names right. Black Parent Initiative, thank you so much for being our title sponsor, making sure that we can bring this show to viewers every week. Also, thank you to Education Explorers. If you want free, quality, culturally specific childcare, make sure you go to Education Explorers. Also, thank you to Home Place, Furniture and Design, all this wonderful set decor. You can come here. This is in Delta Park, this location. It's beautiful furniture. Make sure you connect. Also, Janelle James Boutique, thank you so much for fitting me every week. And then last but not least, oh my gosh, my amazing team. Triple Echo Studios, my production partners. Thank you guys so much. Bloom Beauty Collective and Productions, Abibat, thank you. Press Release Marketing, thank you to Crystal. She's here, but she's way over there. Thank you so much. And man, thank you, the viewers. Really appreciate you and can't wait to see you for season 2. Take care of yourselves, and when you think me, think we. See ya. Situations and Conversations with Trey Renee is sponsored by Black Parent Initiative, growing at the speed of relationships. Education Explorers, culturally sound, quality childcare you can count on. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.